Guys, we're back again with some more baseball content. We're going to do a video on the May Player of the Month. I know it's July now, but we're not speaking about May. We're speaking about Marcus Semien because he's an All-Star Game starter. This dude is tearing it up still for the Toronto Blue Jays. And sadly, for any Jays fans, you might forget, you guys only signed him to a one-year contract. You needed someone to fill the third base slash shortstop hole. You get Semien, or sorry, second base, I guess. Second base. He's moved over since the start of his career. Second base hole. You have Marcus Semien playing to literally the top of his ability, third in MVP voting in 2019, potentially top 5 in MPV voting this year. You might lose him. That's tough.
So I'm going to put this in perspective for a lot of people that don't know Marcus Semien. So 2 years ago, he was third in MVP voting, like you're talking about. Last year, he was barely starting. Last year was a really bad year for him. His batting average got down to 220. He only hit 9 bombs over 60 games. His defense was on point. I'm not going to lie. It was. But at the plate, he kind of forgot who he was. And I know that I'm sure a lot of people have this conversation. We've had this conversation before where you got to kind of take the 2020 numbers and forget about them because they were not accurate to what these players should be. We've seen a lot of guys shine last year, but we've seen a lot of guys struggle. A lot of former great guys struggle. And whenever I'm looking at, so I've got his stats pulled up in here. I've been kind of analyzing them for a little while now. And I'm not even talking about defense. He's been on point on defense. He's moved over to second base, been one of the top defensive second basemen in the league. If anything, he should be playing shortstop. That's Bo Bichette's there, long story, whatever. But comparing his 2019 year to this year, so he's got 359 at-bats this year, and he had 657 in 2019. That's just over half. But that year, he had 33 home runs. Right now, he's at 20. Double that, that's 40. Even if you're taking away a couple because it's just over half, you're still over 35, well over 35. You're looking at all of his stats the same kind of way. His doubles have more than doubled in are on track to bypass what they were that year. His batting average is higher. His on-base percentage is higher. Everything is better than that year. And nobody's talking about him in the MVP race. And he's playing better than he was 2 years ago. People on the Blue Jays fans are talking about Vlad winning MVP. Yes, Vlad's been amazing. But so is Marcus Semien, and he's been kind of forgotten about. And now we're sitting here. I'm a Blue Jays fan, and whenever we got him, I was like, yeah, I know. That's a great low risk, low reward, or low risk, potentially high reward if he does good. It's only 1 year. Who really cares? It's only until Bichette becomes 1 year better.
And Austin Martin develops.
Yeah, and all these players develop a little bit more. And, you know, of course, Bo Bichette's going to learn from Marcus Semien, a former MVP candidate. No. Forget about Bo Bichette for a second. Marcus Semien, we should have signed him for 5 years. This guy is only 30 years old right now. He's got at least 2 to 3 more great years out of him. And whenever you're talking about great players at this stage, you always accept 1 or 2 down years. Getting 3 great years and 2 down years would have been a dream for this version of Marcus Semien, but not last year's. That's the key point.
And the funny thing is, too, you said, like, yeah, he should technically be at shortstop, but I just actually looked, and his fielding percentage is the best it's been since 2014. So even at second base, this guy's excelling. And I think the conversation when they signed him was I mentioned him playing at third base at first because I thought that's how the lineup would look, where they'd move him to third. They'd have Kevin Biggio playing second. But, I mean, you don't argue with what Semien's been doing, nor the positioning decisions of the Blue Jays management, which is something we said in our last video too, that they're making the right calls. They easily could have done exactly what I said and put Semien at third, and maybe it was a defensive struggle, maybe it's something different with the lineup. They put him where he's most comfortable, or close to where he's most comfortable, and he's having a career year at this point where he's going to, at this pace, do better than the numbers he set in his MVP season. Quote, MVP candidate season, but we'll call it an MVP season.
He was third in MVP voting. It was pretty damn close. But we're sitting here saying that, yeah, the Blue Jays should have signed him to longer. There's a reason why he was on the free agent market for that long. He wasn't the first pickup for the Blue Jays. He was actually the last major name that we picked up. And that was because his last year was so down. You never know if the player's going to be able to turn it around. Clearly, Semien is one of those guys that can.
Yeah, and he's a guy too who, like you said, whenever they have down years, they're willing to come up, but he's a leader as well. He's going to
Yeah.
show this Jays team whenever they get down to the playoff time and they get down to those clutch games, he could step up. He could be that guy who, yeah, they have young guys with a voice and who are willing to do it, but they didn't really have anyone on the team aside from George Springer, who has been playing, who they do have the experience. They are in the prime of their careers, and Marcus Semien is. And this really reminds me a lot of that 2015, 2016
Yeah.
Jays team, where they just kind of have a bit of everything and it's all coming together. And if they could get past a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, this team can make a lot of noise. And I think if they make it to at least the ALCS, they probably consider running it back.
And if they're running it back, right now you're paying Semien $20 million a year. If you would have gone on a multi-year contract, he signed for 1 year at $20 million because that's all that was really being offered. If you would have signed him before this year, you probably could have got 4 or 5 years out of him for between 15 20 million per. That's probably something that probably could have happened. But Semien, he's smart. He bet on himself. Now, if you're the Blue Jays and you're talking about making the ALCS, and if you are making to that point, yeah, you're probably running it back. You're hoping that all your players end up getting another year on them. Most of their team is very young, and they have these couple good vets, but the good vets are only 30, 31 years old. They're not actually old guys. They still have years ahead of them. In that situation, yeah, you're probably hoping to run it back. But now all the bargaining power is on Semien's side. He's probably going to get a 4 to 5, $100 to $120 million a year contract, making 25 to 30 mil per, if not more, for a guy that in his last 2 years, it's already typically a write-off once they're over 33, 34. You pay him those extra years, just so you have him for his prime years. But what a big fucking bite to out a big bullet to bite, that the fact that they could have signed him for so long for a cheap deal and be able to afford their young players. But now, in my opinion, if he's getting paid that much, you can't afford Bichette. You can't afford Vlad. Do you really pay Semien?
I see a team like the Yankees going for it. It'd be so AL East where they all just kind of swap players all the time. So I would not be surprised if next year we see a 3-4 year contract with the Yankees, who we did other videos on too, and they did take their luxury cap break here. So I would not be shocked if they overspend next offseason and they come across a guy like Marcus Semien coming off a monster season for the Blue Jays.
And that could really bite us in the ass in the long run, because it's those kind of guys are going to go to a team like that, and we're going to play them in the playoffs. We're going to play them in key games, and we're going to be shaking our heads saying, what could have been?
Exactly. But let us know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, check out the other content, and we'll see you soon with some more.